All right, I want to welcome everyone. My name is Julissa, and I work for the New York City Public Advocate, Letitia James, and I want to welcome all of you to this panel. We're going to talk about the New York recovery efforts. We've worked closely with the agencies and the individuals who are here with us. And so I'm going to let folks introduce themselves. And then, we'll continue on with the panel and answer any questions. I'm gonna first start, well, I guess I'll start with what we've done as an agency, and then everyone else can introduce themselves and what, the work that they're doing on their end. So, the Office of the Public Advocate is a watchdog agency. The Public Advocate's an elected official, second to the mayor of New York. And basically our role as an elected office is to ensure that the different agencies across the city provide the services in, an efficient and professional manner. So we have we do this through legislation, through our legal services department and constituent services. I am the director of constituent services, and basically my role in the New York recovery effort has actually been to help provide a link people who have evacuated Puerto Rico and come to the city to different agencies and to different services, and ensure that they are treated correctly, and also work together in coalition with many folks here and folks who are not here right now. So some things that we did initially that the Public Advocate did was the first thing she did was release a policy brief in October. Making recommendations. I have copies of the brief and everything if you guys want later on. Making recommendations as to how the city should approach recovery. A lot of that got implemented through the Julissa de Burgos Center when the mayor, along with the then speaker, launched kind of a central processing center where different city agencies and nonprofits got together and received people from the island. And so a lot of that got implemented, but now that it's been decentralized and, the speaker term limited out and things like that, we decided to step in and kind of fill in the gaps a bit. Since then, we have worked together with legal services agencies and other nonprofits to have resource fairs. We had about 5 so far in legal clinics, and just kind of being the government on the government end, a resource for everyone else. So that's basically what we've done as the Public Advocate of the City of New York.
Hi, so my name is Víctor Martínez. I'm actually a policy analyst here at the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, as well as co-founder of the organization Diaspora for Puerto Rico. This is an organization that was created right after Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. We were basically 4 friends that we thought in what way we can help not just Puerto Rico, but especially Puerto Rican evacuees that were relocating not only to New York, but to different states. So we created this organization. We have a website. I can give you the information of our website. Our website, it's in Spanish, especially for people that are that have already relocated or are even thinking of relocating. There's still a lot of people that have actually contacted us that will come, that are thinking of moving in the next months, especially between June and July, right after the school year ends in Puerto Rico. They're thinking of moving to either New York or to other states. So we provide information on our website about different social services that you can find in different states. And not only we provide information, but people can send us their information and we can refer them to different agencies. We, for example, we work with the Public Advocate's Office, with NYDIS and Urban Health Plan, and any situations that people have. For example, we refer them to one of these agencies or other agencies that we have. We are partners right now. So you have an idea in the case of New York. According to estimates by the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, in the past 6 months, there's migration of more than 11,000 have migrated from Puerto Rico to New York. This is New York State, not New York City, New York State. Most of the migration has been to areas like Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, and as well as New York City. We can see that with the numbers. I don't know if some of you already saw the presentation of this morning of the Department of Education of New York with the numbers of the students that have moved here, have relocated. We can see that those are the areas that there have most Puerto Ricans have moved. Right now, one of the things that we are working on is with city and state governments to see in what way we can help these families. One of the things is that the state government recently created a committee to help Puerto Rico and as well Puerto Ricans that have relocated. And we're trying through that committee to create an agenda and to help these families. The number one issue, like in many states, is housing. Housing is the biggest issue for these families. After that, there's a lot of needs that then we can talk a little bit more about kids with special needs, seniors, and other kind of needs that we have seen throughout this phase. Now we are thinking in some way what will be the next step, but we still are not there. The temporary temporary shelter assistance program, the TSA, FEMA, ends on June 30th. So right now, all of us are working to see what we can do in these upcoming weeks to help these families. After that, we're trying to continue helping these families in any other way. We would like to have more of the conversation, so you have questions and we can talk a little bit more about what we're doing, but this is like a summary, let's say, of what we have been able to do for the past months together with our partners here and friends. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Boris Martínez. I'm representing NYDIS. I'm a caseworker. So NYDIS was at the service center up in Julissa since day one. We saw over 2,000 families. We were able to provide direct assistance, meaning gift cards, Metro cards, things like that. We spent about $150,000 worth of direct assistance through our Unmet Needs Roundtable. On November 28th, we opened up the marketplace, which was, we were able to distribute new clothing, household goods to over 1,200 households. We still have the marketplace open. It's not at Julissa anymore, but it's not too far from here. It's on 101st Street and 3rd Avenue, and we're still open there Tuesdays and Thursdays. We continue to see about 10 to 20 families each day, which is surprising. Also, new families have been coming in within the last month. Even within the last week, this week we saw 3 families that came last Friday and Saturday to New York City. So we continue to see families coming into New York City. Our main goal at NYDIS is to try to permanently house families coming to New York, not only in New York City, but around the country if possible. We've been able to go ahead and help families relocate to to Florida, to Colorado, Massachusetts. We're able to provide rental assistance, meaning first month rent, security deposit, broker fee. The only barrier to this is that the families need to prove that they're sustainable enough to go ahead and be able to pay rent from that second month going forward. So we try to give them that push initially to go ahead and help them, start something fresh. But it's a barrier, especially seeing with a lot of single mothers that we've been seeing, a lot of single mothers, and it's especially even more difficult for them. At the marketplace, how I said, we continue to distribute new clothing. It's not anything used. Everything is new, donated by stores, by all over the place. We've actually distributed over 20,500 pieces of clothing items and household goods. And due to the FEMA TSA extension through June 30th, we continue to have the marketplace open. How I said, we continue to see families. And yeah, in summary, how I said, we're still able to provide direct assistance with transportation, clothing, and rental assistance for families who need it. Thank you.
My name is Wanda Marquez. I'm the Director of Social Service at Urban Health Plan. I oversee the social workers there and the case managers. We came in contact with these families through the Julissa Center. They were referred to us directly, or Diaspora referred them to us, or the family just came in, just like they drop in, because we are located in the Bronx, in the South Bronx. So we had a lot of families that came to us. Some of them were referred, or some of them just came in because they knew that we offer medical service there and social work services as well. It's been challenging. We provided them with with assessments once we found out that there were a number of complex needs that they have, and many of you probably have worked with the families or have not worked with the families, but after the hurricane, a lot of these families were presenting, when they came into the city, they were presenting housing issues, which is the main one. Some of them were coming with children with special needs. A lot of them with children with special needs. Of course, you have unemployment issues, you have medical complex needs or mental health issues. Then understanding the DOE, the Department of Education, they didn't understand, okay, I need to do an evaluation, I need to do this. Having long hours to have it to commute to the schools because they located in shelters or they located in hotels and they needed to commute and do a number of things, 2 hours, very different than other families within the city. So, just working with all these different needs that these families have. And then on top of all of that, very complex post-traumatic disorder for a lot of them. Something that escaped our minds is that, okay, these families have a number of issues, but these families were also traumatized. So you are dealing with individuals that are asked to maneuver so many things in their life in a place that is new to them. And then on top of all of that, they traumatize. So very, very complex issues that we're dealing with. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to open the floor to questions.
So a lot of these families, right, a lot of the elderly now, I'm sure they get this income, they get money from Social Security. How would you guys able to navigate that process? Because I know my mother, when she didn't get her check, furniture was moved around the house. So that's very important to the fixed income. How does these seniors, how are you navigating that as far as they're here, they used to getting their money, living there, being there, now they're here. I mean, like I said, I would go frantic if I knew that I get money like earned, from the government here. I'm here now and I'm getting still, how are you navigating that?
Yeah, so
that's a very sensitive issue with some families.
So pretty much a lot of the resources and entitlements that are in Puerto Rico are also in here. So let's say if somebody was able to get Social Security in Puerto Rico, they are able to transfer that here as well, because it's part of the, Puerto Rico is part of the, USA territory.
Are people walking into your establishment saying, help me get my Social Security check? I mean, how do you navigate that concept? It's a very delicate situation.
Yeah. Our office we have our Constituent Services Department, and that's basically what we do is navigate the different agencies, not only city, but we also have relationships with like the Social Security Administration, which is a federal agency. We have, you know, we are basically a conduit to the to government, right? So those who need assistance in, you know, with their Social Security, just making sure that they access their benefits from here, you know, our office is able to provide that assistance through Social Security. And it's really not a very hard thing to do, being that it's a federal agency and everything kind of transfers from one state to state, yeah.
But here comes the idea that it's important, especially the work that Wanda has done with urban health plan, and also the work that Julissa and the advocate's office. It's to first, in some way, to case manage these families. There has been a way that we have connected in some way with them. So you start to talk to them and they basically give you all their life. So then one of the things is that, okay, what are your needs? Right. That's like the most important question. Like, what are your needs? And there is when they start like, okay, I need this, or have the situation with Social Security. And that way we look and that way then, okay, and what way we can help. That's the way that we have been able like to work with these cases in many ways. So yeah.
I think my name is Tanya. I'm a pediatrician. I work for HRSA, but I'm here. HRSA funds the Federally Qualified Health Centers. Like
right. I know HRSA.
But I'm here as Tanya. But what I wanted to say is that I think sometimes they can be very difficult because in Puerto Rico, for example, the eligibility for Mi Salud, you know, you can only make half as much as you make here. So I think sometimes when people come here, they may not even know. It's like you said, once someone tells you their story, okay, then you can figure out what their needs are. And sometimes because of that difference, because you could only make half as much in Puerto Rico to be eligible for a lot of things, whether it be Medicaid, Social Security is different, but Medicaid and a lot of other things, I think there's that transition. And then with children with special health care needs, I mean, in New York State, it's very robust for children with special health care needs. And I think, but however, helping the parents to get through that process, to go through the additional IEP, individual education plan at school and whatnot, sometimes they have to go through that all over again because they may not have the records, they may not have those things. And I think that those are the kinds of things that take a huge amount of time. Like when you were talking, I'm from the Bronx, I'm from Parkside Projects, I grew up there, right? So so where normally we would walk, you know, to school, or school is, you know, a couple blocks away or whatever. When you add on top of that having a special needs child and having to travel, it's very difficult. But I think the only good thing is once we can really help the families to understand how much more they are eligible for in terms of those kinds of services for their children with special health care needs, and also the higher, that many who are not eligible for Mi Salud or whatever in Puerto Rico, they may be eligible for Medicaid here. I think those are some critical things, but sometimes it's hard because when people first come, they may or may not know, you know, depending on whether they have family here or friends here. I live in New Jersey now. And, you know, some of the families are coming to New Jersey as well. And at least in New York, the public transportation is good. But when you start getting to places like New Jersey and other sitios, it's very, very difficult. So I think that it's, how can I say this? It takes a lot of time to understand not only what the needs are, but how do you really help people to get to navigate to where all these different places are, which I think that's a big deal, you know?
Yes, I think you are absolutely right. I think that's one of the biggest barriers that we have found is how to connect all these different services and have individuals that can really case manager these families because they need a lot of case management. I have my job on top of the needs, you know, we have the needs of the families of New York City. And then on top of that, we have the families that came from Puerto Rico that are very different than the families in New York City because some individuals ask, what is so different? And I have social workers that are supervised and so what is the difference? They see the difference. This different might be the amount of time that you need to spend with these families. You have regular families that might have housing issue, or might have, I don't understand DOE, or I might have an unemployment issue, I might have mental health illness, or I might have 2 of those psychosocial issues. But with these families, you have 3 or 4 of those all together and all combined. And I have to say a little bit more about these families. Not all these families are families that are not educated. A lot of them are very educated coming from Puerto Rico. Some of them, I have seen individuals with a PhD. I have seen nurses. We hire over 7 nurses in our site. We have individuals. I just had a social worker yesterday that came to speak to us. And they understand their children. They treat their children very, very well. Giving them time out. You're not talking about individuals punishing children, using corporal punishment, talking to them very, very educated. So a lot of them are very educated, but still dealing with the housing issues that we know that is so difficult to live in New York City. How many of us can afford New York City? You know that. So on top of that, you have all these families that are coming with all these different complex issues. And just like you mentioned, you have to go, in the past, you could have go just to the school and just go take your kids to school. But now these families are in a hotel. You have to travel 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to go back and take them. And I mean, very, very complex.
So one of the reasons in some way that we created our organization is because, for example, we came here 5 years ago from Puerto Rico. We completely understand the difficult that is to know how things are in New York. And even like one of the situations that we're having with the families and that we even went through is language access. It's pretty difficult that. So that was the idea of what we created, to provide the information. That's the reason that our website is in Spanish, and how we say it in Puerto Rican Spanish. And that's why we try to connect with these families and to sit down with them and to hear their story and to make that connection sometimes. And that's one of the main reasons, because as you mentioned, like, and you were saying, like, it's so hard. This city is so hard. So that's why we were like, okay, let's do this. I would have loved when I came 5 years ago to have something like this. but here it is. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
With your thought?
Yeah.
No, because I wanted to give Mr. Andrew a chance, and then Christina, and then David. And you have a question?
No, I just got here.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. I'm moderating.
Thank you. So I think you mentioned before that there's a deadline of June 30th. Can you expound on what deadline that is for? I think, from my understanding, it's when evacuees have to leave protected housing or something. But is there like a campaign around that? What happens after that? And can you just talk about the stories about what would happen to those families theoretically?
FEMA has the temporary shelter allowance, which has been paying for the hotel stay for evacuees who are here, well, who are at the diaspora, and on the island as well. Those who who meet certain criteria. Recently, the governor lifted a lot of those criteria so that it can be a blanket extension done through June 30th so that the children can finish the semester in school and things like that. I think the idea behind the governor of Puerto Rico, that is, because he's not wanting to push for more time, I think it's because, he wants folks to return to the island. There has been, there are several coalitions, a couple of coalitions that have formed over the last couple of months who are looking at what is it that we should be pushing for. I think the stance of the public advocate, we're looking at holding FEMA accountable to providing a longer term recovery for Puerto Rico, but also, for those who are here, who are displaced. But not only that, there are some folks who do not intend on returning. So for those who do not intend on returning, us as a city, we need to absorb these people who wish to stay. So then what? What's the next step for them to make sure that they receive all of the services that they need? So many of them we have to prepare for, receiving them in shelters temporarily, getting them connected to vouchers for housing and subsidies, employment opportunities, just all of those things, because they need to move beyond the chaos that is, of not knowing where you stand every month, which is basically how they've been since they've arrived here. Every month the uneasiness of not knowing whether you're going to be renewed, you're going to have to leave the hotel and things like that, and not wanting to make any plans because you don't know if you're going to be there in a few weeks. So you're scared to seek employment, you're scared to enroll your kid in school, you're scared to, you don't even have a stable address. So we need to make sure that they have a stable address, because that's really, as Victor said, the first step in recovery is, having a place to live and your basic needs, shelter and food and healthcare. Those basic things need to be met. So us as a city, we have to have a plan and provide that on the long term when we absorb absorb them.
Thank you.
So one of the other things is that we, since when was it? Since February, March. In our case, we started to talk about the idea that either the city or the state government should create a task force, a type of task force to see what policies should be implemented in any case. That's when the idea here of the New York State Committee came out, and then from there we have it now. In the next weeks, we're going to start the conversations, and here comes the idea that it's not going to be only here in New York City, but it's more with other organizations in Rochester, Buffalo, and all of these other areas in the state. And to come together, all the organizations, to see then with the state what we can do then. So that's one of the things, as Julissa mentioned, there's some coalitions that are pushing, are working with the press and with other organizations to push this so these families get some help. So it's going to be some interesting weeks for us in some way. After June 30th, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see another extension. I don't see it. It's going to be really difficult. So at this point, we need to, in any case, if these families are going to stay, what are we going to do? And we still have time in some way, but we have to act now. So
I think just one final note of what Victor and Julissa were saying. About all the folks that we've seen, I can't put an exact number on it, but about 90% of the families have said they want to permanently relocate to New York City. that they do not want to go back. Given the FEMA extension up until June 30th, I believe they also said that they'll be willing to pay for return tickets to Puerto Rico. But that leaves the question of those who don't want to go back. You know, as of now, the only option if they're unable to find a job, they're unable to do anything, is to enter the shelter system, and that's something that families do not want to do under no circumstances. So, yeah, we do, give or take, we have 7 weeks until we hit that deadline, until we hit that 30th deadline. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how everything develops and to see what's that next step after that date.
I hope I'm not taking the floor too much. If anybody wants to.
I think there was another question.
I think she was.
If I digress, just cut me off.
No, it's
I have a language question. I was raised by my Puerto Rican grandparents who came during that mass migration in the 50s. So, you know, I can communicate with my extended family in Spanish. And I remember when I was in college here in New York, even the university students from UPR that came, my Spanish is better than their English. So I know language can be very political in Puerto Rico. I read about it in English and in Spanish. My question is it a socioeconomic issue? Who gets taught in both languages? So there's not that language barrier when they come to the States. Like, do elementary school children that live in the mountains, when they go to school, do they get dual language education? Does that, do the elite, I'm assuming the elites do that go to private school. I'm just wondering, how is English and Spanish implemented? So let's say when you move to the States, you're able to communicate in both, because I've noticed that could be a barrier to access, and some people may not be as patient to like talk to some, we're in a rush in New York City, some people not patient, like, what are you saying, what? And they'll just like bypass people. So how does that work? Like, is in the education system dual language? Is it just one language? Because even my extended family, like, if I don't speak to them Spanish or write a letter to them in Spanish in Puerto Rico in 2018, they won't understand anything that I write to them in English. I was wondering, how does it work? I mean, I don't mean to take too much of the time. If it's too much, take me to a website. And I was just wondering.
It's in the case in Puerto Rico.
Yes, over there, yeah. How does that, yeah.
And I can answer how it works on accessing services here.
Okay,
So
yeah, I can.
You start and then I'll.
You said you made the motive.
Yeah, I can talk about my own experience. I went to school in Puerto Rico all my life. I'm going to get in trouble here. Oh my God, and there's a camera.
The truth sets you free.
Yeah. So it's assumed since kindergarten in Puerto Rico, we are mostly teaching Spanish, but we have always an English class.
Understood.
And that kind of stuff. I even went to a bilingual middle school. I'm bilingual. That mostly science class, and what other class was teaching English, math, basically those. The real thing is that the English is not taught that well. You mentioned it's a big debate.
Yeah.
And I think it should not be a debate. It should not be a political
And it gets
debate.
political because of other things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And I don't want to go
No,
into that, but it's a really political debate. And I don't think that it should be that. In any case, English is a language that is really important, not only because of the US, but in the world. It's a language that you're able to communicate with others. And you see that how bad the education system in Puerto Rico is. You see it with the experiences that we have had here with the families.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. Are you seeing families? Are you seeing the PhD nurse or whatever? Is she like fluent? Is she like working it? Or is it just people that, like, does it have to do with socioeconomic class? The more you have access and money to pay for a private tutor, is your English
Probably
on
have
par?
more to do with class and
Yeah.
economic.
Yeah.
I've seen some families are bilingual.
Yeah.
Of course, they have an accent like many of us, but they could speak.
Yeah.
I think, politically, Puerto Ricans in the island has fought to speak Spanish. They didn't want to speak English for whatever reason. It's more political.
Yeah.
But typically the families that are coming here, they have some access. it shouldn't be an issue here because we have other families and we are in New York City and we do have more families that don't speak the language and we still give them the same services. We have families in Washington Heights, come from Dominican Republic. We have Mexicans here also. So we have a lot of different families coming from other Spanish-speaking countries, and they assimilate. You know, it takes them a while, but they assimilate. I think with these families, it's just a crunch of too many things at the same time.
Okay.
It's not only like I don't speak English. It's just more complexity than the language. Yeah.
And I can see some of the barriers that families have encountered going to agencies and trying to seek services. I think language can be a barrier in the sense that in the city of New York, all government agencies, all city agencies are required to provide translation services and interpretation services. So like you should be able to go to any government office or city agency like HRA and receive a translator. If there's no one physically available, they can do it over the phone, things like that. The reality is that many families have encountered discrimination coming into these agencies. Some people don't even know that they are citizens. You know, one clear example, one well-intentioned, and when I tell you a well-intentioned worker in homeless services called my office asking many questions, and I think they really wanted to provide a service but did not know, like they're trying to connect them to different services as part of the intake process, because you have to go through an intake process when you're seeking shelter. But there are just certain things that they didn't know. For example, the person lost their birth certificate during the hurricane, getting the replacement Puerto Rican birth certificate. Perhaps they can go to a Puerto Rican consulate, or how do you do that? And I said, well, you know, Puerto Rico is U.S. territory, and they can go, you know, the vital check will fix that. You know, like I said, same as any other. I said, you know, you can do it through vital check, and you know, it shouldn't be too hard to obtain a replacement document. Little things like that. They're like, really? I said, you know, if they're born in Puerto Rico, they're U.S. citizen, and I had to like literally give them educate them on that.
Here's a handbook, what you should know.
What you should know. And you know, and I don't think it was their fault, because you know they're just a regular, you know, everyday city worker, and they weren't doing it on purpose to be discriminatory against a person. They just really did not know that. They did not know that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, and that those who are born there are U.S. citizens and may not, you know, need, you know, you don't need a green card, you know, and things like that, that they're, you know, they're citizens. So just things like that. And I feel like those things present barriers.
Delay the process.
It delays the process. If you do that,
we can move to the second question on that 50-page intake form. Yeah.
Exactly. So things like that, little things like that, them getting turned away, you know, for, you know, various reasons. And and that's really where our role comes in, where we start stepping in and educating and reaching out to their bosses and say, hey, you know, you gotta talk to your staff about this, you know.
That's something that always happens. You always have to give a little history class.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to. That's another topic for another day. But you shouldn't have to give a history class for someone. But go get it on your phone. Like, work it out.
Right.
I want to follow up on that and give you, talk about number one, the language, but also the issue about citizenship. It's very real. You know, one of the challenges that happens is children, they're able to acquire language so quickly. They can come here, the younger the child is, the quicker they'll learn English, right? So then you set up, and my mamitas from Puerto Rico, she's from Diaspora. So then what happens is there's this dynamic set up that's really not a healthy dynamic, and certainly it's not, particularly for La Cultura de Nosotros, it's very difficult. And I think that we have to be so careful of that, because as you said, even though all of these agencies are supposed to be providing the services in whatever language, either in person or by phone, the default, which we all know is wrong, is to use the children. And then that sets up you're the social worker, so I'm not gonna, so that sets up a whole other dynamic. But the issue of birth certificates, los certificados de nacimiento, I can't tell you how important that is. And the issue of race comes in, even if you're Puerto Rican, Puerto Rican, when you don't think that way. And I'll give you an example in reverse of Puerto Rico and then how it can happen here, okay? I went back to Puerto Rico a couple of years ago because mommy was like, I need that. She goes, I need that. I have to go get the new certificado de nacimiento. I was like, mommy, está bien, okay? I mean, it was like, I have to. And I couldn't really appreciate, because I was born here, what that meant to my mother until a few years, until I went through it with her. And she says, Tanya, you don't understand. And then and if anybody here is Dominican, I mean this in no offense, but whenever I go back and forth to Puerto Rico, because of the color of my skin, a lot of times I'm stopped, and I'm asked, where are you going to? Where are you coming from? Because there's an assumption that I'm not Puerto Rican, which is so ignorant. That's a whole other level. But imagínate that you've lost all your documentation, you're here. There is a lot of prejudice here towards people, period, okay, which is just totally ignorant. And so in addition to whether they know or they don't know, when you don't have those papers, it can become very difficult. And even though we don't like to talk about the issue of race, and my mother doesn't, you ask my mother what her race is, she's like, I'm Puerto Rican, she did, so, but the bottom line is that can become very, very delicate, and proving who you are should not be that difficult. But when you go through a hurricane and you go through a situation where you've lost all your documentation, even though we have these infrastructures, and Puerto Rico is, part of the United States, sometimes it is not as easy as you might think, or you might have a blended family. You might have a blended family. So you have a lot of these other dynamics going on, and forgive me from going on and on, but I think they are issues that, as you said, families aren't going to talk about being discriminated against, but it's very, very real. And when you've gone through that, either in Puerto Rico or you've gone through it here, and you have nothing to prove who you are, it's very challenging. It can take more than a moment sometimes to prove who you are, to prove what grade your children are in, to prove, your immunization status. I know you know this, and so I'm just putting it out there, and that takes a lot of time and effort. It's getting better now, but in the principio it was very difficult for some people, and it should never be that difficult. But it goes back to the fact that particularly right now, a lot of us are being treated like we're not citizens of the United States, and you complicate that with going through a hurricane and losing all your documents, and it's difficult. So forgive me for.
I recently saw a documentary at Pace University called In the Dark, and it was done by students. They went over there and they interviewed the victims of Hurricane Maria. And some of the most moving commentary was, I think it was, she might have been a professor at the University of Puerto Rico. She said, like, psychologically, infrastructure, economic, like Puerto Rico can't handle another hurricane. And, Hurricane Maria couldn't have happened at a worse time with the economic crisis that was going on in Puerto Rico at the time. So it was such moving commentary while watching the documentary, because with June, hurricane season is approaching. Is there any preparation, God forbid, if another hurricane happens?
We're not from the island, okay?
So
We try to deal with the problems here.
I can talk a little bit about that, yeah. And this is my policy side here working at Centro. And working with the coordination, as well as the Center for Puerto Rican Studies. One of the things that I do, I coordinate the Rebuild Puerto Rico initiative, all this that we have been working on. So we are already 21, 20 already 20 days from the new hurricane season. If it's prepared, I believe that Puerto Rico is not prepared if another hurricane hits this year. I hope it not, but I don't know if you have seen the pictures from the air pictures of Puerto Rico. Most there's a lot of houses with blue tarps.
Yes.
What does that mean, blue tarps?
On the tarps, they don't have roofs yet.
They don't have roofs, so
permanent-
basically,
Yeah.
so imagine if another hurricane hits Puerto Rico. That's something that needs to be planned. And I will say, not only for in the case of Puerto Rico, but as well, if something, I hope not, but if something like this happens again, we are going to then have more evacuees. So we have to be prepared as well here.
You mean stateside?
Yeah,
New York.
stateside.
Yeah.
Like in New York and the other states, we have to be prepared in any case if something like that happens. We have to look and see like what were the mistakes that we did, what needs to be done, and to have a plan in some way if something like this, that I hope that it doesn't happen, but if something like this happens again, we are prepared.
The we is really sad because realistically, this should be the responsibility of the federal government. Like the fact that,
Yeah.
I mean, Puerto Rico right now, there's 20,000 people still without power, and they haven't had power since Maria hit. You're 20 days away from the next hurricane season. The reason there's blue tarps is because people's roofs got blown off. Like there's a lot of houses made out of wood or concrete or tin. And the answer immediately was just to cover their roofs with plastic and see what happens. But there's a lot of issues tied up with people getting funds for reconstruction of their homes because there's like a lot of informal deeds in Puerto Rico. So like an insane percentage of people can't prove that they own the property they live on. And it just hurts to hear that like the solution is so imposed on the state side of things that we're expecting the cycle of leaving the island to accelerate, and that our organizations are trying to figure out how to handle that when really like the federal government just needs to, excuse my language, just get its shit together and figure things out before this happens.
Yeah,
I agree. That's the reason why all these agencies are trying to do something about it, because I feel like no one at the government level is really doing anything to address this issue. That, you know, this was really our own Sandy, you know, this was our own Katrina. This was one of the worst hurricanes in Puerto Rico history.
Yeah.
This
It's
was
the-
in a
it's
regular
the
hurricane.
largest
This was
blackout
just,
in American history.
you know, I remember talking to people when they were going through the process, and people were very scared because of the noise level. You know, some people, the water went through everything, and they have water as they were, you know, just being there, having to carry people upstairs because the water was there. Some people, their houses fell, you know, it was just like something unexpected. I went to Puerto Rico in February, and I went to Humacao, the beach, to see. People were showing me how everything looked, and the poles, the electricity poles were still like this. It was like a scary movie. People are just walking around, but nothing is really in place there. You know, there's still things functioning little by little. So they open this, they open the museum, they open, you know, so gradually things are opening, but people are walking traumatized too. And, you know, the government, they still, you know, there's so much politically, but, you know, we haven't seen the case management disaster unit there helping and trying to assess, which is something that's missing here and missing there. So that's what we all work in trying to do as much as we can, with all of us, one way or the other, just try to help, these families. But there's still a lot missing from the government piece.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what I'm saying. Like, for instance, you want to go against holding a prolonged pity party with all this stuff too. Like, I grew up in the South Bronx. I disagree with what you said. When it happened, Congressman Holt Saves around when I was a little kid, he was elected to Congress. He was one of the first people that came out and said, "We have a crisis." And he organized the first, what is that, civilized stuff down there to the, I disagree with that. He was out there first and foremost. I grew up in it. I remember he was elected to Congress. And last time I checked, Puerto Rico College has a beautiful glass steel building. Where's the president of this college? Puerto Rico College. Where is he at in all this going on? Why do we have to hold his feet to the fire? Open your doors, hire all your PhDs, who happen to be from the diaspora, hire all your research people. Let's get some things on the boots on the ground going with all this coordination and stuff. People have the technology, they have the education. I think that's part of the problem. Rely on the government to do this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. They have a beautiful glass steel building, like 12 stories up in my old neighborhood. I grew up in the area, like 5 minutes from Yankee Stadium. I mean, we have to rely on ourselves. I can tell you this when I'm black. We go through this all the time. Every time something bad goes down, you can't find the churches, you can't find the visuals. They're all scattered, they all do their own thing. Now you got to start with what you got. Work with what you got here. Instead of worrying about what the government, Trump, whatever's going to do. That doesn't make sense to me. So, I just want to clarify. You don't want to hold up a long pity party. You really want to get some things done. They were saying earlier this morning, they're saying all this stuff down there, but nobody's there to coordinate what's going on down there. So, you got diapers and all this stuff sitting there, just rotting and collecting dust. Nobody's going to do stuff. But the people are here and they have brains, they have technology, they have a means of transportation. You have to, work with what you got.
So with that said, we have to go to the final piece, which is where do we go from here? Like moving forward, like we spoke a little bit about beyond the June 30th, but where do we go from here? What are what's El Centro's role? Like what, who's going to do what? The points of convergence. So I just want to make sure that
I can start and then.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that we have to do is between different organizations and not only here in New York, but in different states that have been working with evacuees to come together and to talk in what way, what will be the next steps. That will be one of the teams in some way. In our case, local in New York, not only stay here in New York City, but then to connect with organizations in Rochester and other areas in the state, and see then in what way we can help each other. The case of the role of Centro, I think that Centro is a convener in many ways, and Centro can help to connect with these different organizations that have been helping in different states, and to come together to work on what I just mentioned about maybe a plan for if this happens in the future or something like that. Like you mentioned, Zoe, it's sad that we have to say we, but we cannot wait for the federal government in some way to do something. We should be preparing anyway, because what this crisis presented is that what was important was the diaspora. The Puerto Rican diaspora, since the same day the hurricane hit, the Puerto Rican diaspora was starting to organize itself and trying to help Puerto Rico, and then to help Puerto Ricans that were coming to New York and to other states. So basically, between us, we created in some way a safety net. So yeah.
Yeah, I think to touch up on that, the most important thing is communication with other organizations locally here, especially in other states where folks plan on relocating. Because what happens is that many families might be working with different agencies, and they might not be in the loop of what's actually happening. So that coordination from, okay, we're trying to relocate this family or get this family a job, it's a lot of moving parts, and communication is very important. I know that what we're doing is with Diaspora X, with Urban Health, with other organizations, we have the weekly meetings to coordinate difficult cases or urgent cases to try to go ahead and be able to help fund them. What we do is, you know, being that we do have direct services that we're able to provide sometimes on the spot or within a matter of days or a week or so, we do rely on other organizations to go ahead and communicate, you know, how I said, difficult cases to us, to go ahead and start the ball rolling and try to help fund them however we can. That's pretty much what
Just thinking of the barriers that, you know, we have all the different agencies with good intentions to try to help families, but some of them are very specific in the services that they provide. So I provide this, I provide this. So it's, again, putting together those resources and have these families I believe that this should be treated like a special population. For temporary, doesn't mean that they have to have special privilege. I'm not talking about that, but temporary, they should be treated as a special population by the government. So some case management can be provided, and some of the services could be channeled to them. As it is right now, it's very fragmented. We are trying to do whatever we can, as much as we can. I have a lot of concerns for the families. A lot of them, and we have correspondence with different agencies of the mental status of many of the families. There was a very ugly incident not too long ago. I saw an article of somebody in Florida, a family, a woman that was killed in a hotel. So there's a lot of concerns. So it's really, this family's got to be treated again like a special population. More case management needs to be provided to these families on a temporary basis until they become stable, they make decisions to move back until they can go back. And then just, again, coordinate the services provided by many agencies.
Yes. And we need to demand that the federal government does hold its weight, because the fact is that Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico has not gotten the same level of service, either by relief efforts on the ground or even funding as any other affected state. Also, we can provide services and the will is there, but a lot of these agencies are doing that without the funding. They're doing, for example, we have pro bono legal services to help with the FEMA appeals and things like that. They're not getting funding to do that. These are volunteer lawyers who are doing it, you know, because they care. But the reality is that the federal government should be trickling down some funding to the state and the city. It's not that we don't have the capacity to do it. It's just that there's just so much you can do with the little that you have. And so we do need to hold the federal government to the fire as well, because that is something that, you know, we need to look at. How did they treat, you know, Sandy, for example? Right. How did they treat other disasters, other situations, and how are they treating this situation? And and it doesn't level out. So that is, we still, you know, and I'm speaking like now this is government speaking. I'm speaking on that end, that, yeah, the will is there, the motivation is there, the boots on the ground, like people are activated, are willing to do the work. But there's just so much you can do without, you know, how far you can drive without fuel, right? So, you know, that's really what it boils down to.
I have a quick question. What if, like, someone like me, I'm not part of any agency, who just wants to volunteer, and like in New York for the evacuees that are here, you know, because they remind me of my grandparents, you know, they might, you know, like someone who cares. But I mean, those of us that are here in the room that care, that we may not be with any organization, just with ourselves. How can we help? Like, how can I help out in the evacuee? Like, you know, like, do you need like volunteer interpretation service? You know, like how can we, you know, like, or like, I know New York Cares is a program. You can go to a shelter and read books to children to give their parents relief. You know, like how can we help in that way, just to give families a little moment of, you know, enjoying themselves and be, you know, like how. That's my question.
So actually, we are looking for volunteers. So at the end you can.
I mean, I can't do what you do though. You know, the paperwork. You know, like other things. I mean, you know.
We are looking for volunteers, and for example, this upcoming Sunday, we have an event that is for Mother's Day.
That is so cute.
That it's going to be in Casabe Houses. That's 121st Street and Lexington. You're happy to join us if you want. I assume that maybe you're going to be with your mother.
All my mother's a dead friend. It's just another day.
Okay, so if you want to join us, we're going to be there. And this is an event just for the families. This is an event that we are coordinating with the National Puerto Rican Parade. So you're happy to join us, and as well to volunteer we go and visit the hotels and we meet with the families, and there's a lot of stuff. We have been partnered a lot with Urban, that the social workers and Urban, they're helping us in any way. So yes, send me your information, and I'm happy to.
All can do something.
Yeah, and I believe Niles as well.
Also, what I was speaking about earlier, the marketplace that we have on 101st and 3rd Avenue. We're also looking for volunteers just to basically help families look around what they need. So yeah, I'll give out a business card and you could send an email to see when you're available. Yeah.
Yes, there are many, many opportunities to volunteer. There, you know.
Oh yes, they're going to have here at Centro. That's a Centro training. Yeah. So here at Centro, there's going to be if you want to volunteer in any case, in the case of Centro, tomorrow there's going to have a training for volunteers of the Rico Puerto Rico initiative. That's going to be at 9 in the morning. I know that's a little hard, a Saturday morning, but if you want to join that as well.
And it's in the program and all that.
Yes, that's part of the program.
Fair, having a whole action fair. Every organization want to help
exactly.
That involved you.
Exactly.
Thank you for being here.
So yes.
I want to thank everyone for being here. If there's one more question, we could take one more question, and then we'll have to wrap up because we're officially over our allotted time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.